17 years is a long time. It's almost 2 decades of loyalty, hard work, and dedication. For 17 years, I showed up every single day, on time, ready to give my best. I skipped family events, missed birthdays, and sacrificed weekends because I believed in the company and I believed in loyalty. My job wasn't just a paycheck, it was part of my identity. People knew me as the guy who gave his all for the company. I thought that meant something. I thought it meant I was secure. But I was wrong. One morning, just like any other, I walked into work expecting a normal day. Instead, I was called into my boss's office. The look on his face told me everything before he even opened his mouth. Cold, detached, rehearsed words came out of him. "We're letting you go, effective immediately." That was it. No warning, no explanation. Just like that, after 17 years, I was out. I sat there in shock, trying to process. I had trained people who were still working there. I had covered shifts when others bailed. I had saved projects from failing. And this was how it ended? I walked out with a box of my belongings and a hollow feeling in my chest. People I had known for years avoided eye contact as I passed. Some whispered, some looked away. Loyalty, I realized, meant nothing to them. The first few weeks after losing my job were some of the hardest of my life. Waking up without purpose, without routine, was crushing. Bills didn't stop just because I had been thrown aside. The stress piled up, and with it came anger. I kept replaying the moment in my head. 17 years wiped away in seconds. But then I reminded myself of something they didn't know, something I had been building quietly for years. See, while I gave everything to my job, I wasn't blind. I saw how companies treated people, how they used and discarded loyal employees like tools. So on the side, I had been preparing. Late nights, early mornings, I studied and worked on something of my own. I learned about business, about investing, about creating income outside of a paycheck. I had been building a safety net, an idea, a small project that had the potential to grow into something much bigger. When they fired me, they thought they had destroyed me. They thought they had taken away everything. But what they didn't realize was that by letting me go, they had actually set me free. For the first time in 17 years, I wasn't tied down. I could finally put all my energy into myself, into my own vision. At first, it was terrifying. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I'd made a mistake. What if my plan failed? What if I couldn't provide? But then I remembered. I had already survived the worst. Being thrown out after 17 years had been rock bottom. From there, the only direction left was up. So I got to work. I poured everything into my project. Long hours, endless research, trial and error. Slowly, things started to move. At first, it was just a trickle of success, small wins that kept me going. Then, momentum built. What started as a side project grew into a business. Clients came in, opportunities opened up, and for the first time, I wasn't answering to anyone else. I was in control. Months later, while I was sitting in my new office, a space I had built with my own hands, I got a message from a former co-worker. The company was struggling. Projects were failing, morale was low, and people were quitting. The same boss who had tossed me aside was scrambling to keep things afloat. The irony was almost too perfect. They had fired the very person who had kept things running for years, thinking they were cutting dead weight. In reality, they had cut the backbone. And now, the company was collapsing under the weight of its own arrogance. Meanwhile, my business continued to grow. The income I was making on my own soon surpassed what I had earned in 17 years working for them. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about freedom. It was about knowing I would never again be at the mercy of someone else's decision. I was my own boss now. Then, one day, I ran into my old boss at a local event. He looked tired, worn down, nothing like the confident man who had fired me without hesitation. He forced a smile and asked how I was doing. I looked him in the eye and told him the truth. Better than ever. The look on his face was priceless. He didn't need me to explain. He knew. That moment wasn't about gloating, wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It was about closure. It was about showing myself that no matter how badly someone tries to break you, you can rise, rebuild, and come back stronger. My silent payback wasn't rubbing my success in his face. It was living a life so full and free that he couldn't touch it. Now, when I look back on those 17 years, I don't feel bitterness anymore. I feel gratitude, because losing that job was the push I needed to finally build something of my own. I thought being fired was the end, but it was only the beginning of a better story. So if you have ever been discarded, betrayed, or undervalued, remember this. Sometimes what feels like your worst moment is actually your greatest opportunity. They thought they ended me, but all they did was set me free. And that was my silent payback. When I walked out of that office carrying my box of belongings, I thought the worst part would be the humiliation. After all, everyone had seen it. 17 years of loyalty reduced to a short walk of shame. But as the days passed, I realized the true pain wasn't embarrassment. It was the silence. For nearly 2 decades, my mornings had meaning. I woke up knowing where I had to be, what I had to do. Now, the alarm clock rang, and I had nowhere to go. I was adrift, and that kind of emptiness is hard to explain. Bills didn't stop coming. My family still needed me, and yet the stability I had built my life around was gone. Some nights, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment my boss fired me. His cold expression, his rehearsed words, and the way he didn't even thank me for my years of service. That image haunted me. It fueled me, and slowly that fuel turned into something dangerous. Determination. See, what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had been preparing for years. I saw the writing on the wall long before it happened. I saw good people pushed aside, loyal workers treated like tools, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it happened to me. So I had been working in the shadows. Late nights, early mornings, weekends, spent learning skills and building something of my own. I didn't know when the hammer would fall, but I knew when it did, I had to be ready. And now the moment had come. At first, I was terrified to act. My project, my idea, wasn't fully formed yet. I had built pieces of it, studied, experimented, but I hadn't gone all in. That was about to change. With no job to hold me back, I poured every ounce of energy into it. I turned my dining table into a work desk, surrounded myself with notes, laptops, and plans. Every hour I had once given to my company, I now gave to myself. The days were long and exhausting, but they felt different. For the first time in years, I wasn't just working to survive. I was working to build something that was mine. There was freedom in that, even when money was tight, even when doubt whispered in my ear. And trust me, the doubt was loud. Friends and even family told me to be realistic, to get another job, to forget about chasing dreams. They didn't understand. After 17 years, I refused to put my life in someone else's hands again. Weeks turned into months. The small project I had been building slowly came to life. At first, it was just a trickle of income. A few clients here, a little progress there, but every small win lit a fire in me. It proved that I wasn't crazy. It proved that I could make this work. I didn't need my old company. I didn't need my old boss. All I needed was persistence. And persistence became my weapon. Every day I studied harder, worked longer, and improved faster. Slowly, the project grew into a real business. The first time I made enough in 1 month to cover all my bills, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. No boss to please, no corporate ladder to climb, no one to answer to, just me, my work, and my future. But life has a funny way of bringing things full circle. Just as I was hitting my stride, I got a message from an old co-worker. The company that fired me was in trouble. Morale was low, projects were falling apart, and employees were leaving left and right. The boss who had cut me off so coldly was now scrambling to keep the business afloat. I won't lie, hearing that gave me a rush of satisfaction. For years, I had carried that company on my back. I had fixed problems, trained new hires, saved projects, and kept clients happy. And when they tossed me aside, they thought I was replaceable. Now they were learning the truth the hard way. One evening, I sat in my small but growing office, staring at the email updates from my co-worker. And that's when it happened. A message popped up on my phone. It was from him, my old boss, the man who had fired me without warning. His message was short, almost desperate. "Can we talk?" My heart raced. Part of me wanted to delete it, to ignore him completely. Another part of me wanted to respond, to see what he had to say. After all, this was the man who had discarded me after 17 years. What could he possibly want now? I didn't respond right away. I let the message sit there, unread, like a weight in my pocket. Every time I thought about it, I felt a mix of anger and curiosity. Did he want me back? Did he need my help? Or was this some kind of game? I didn't know. But one thing was clear: the tables had turned. The man who had once controlled my future was now the one reaching out. And me? I was finally in a position to decide how this story would end.